What's up YouTube? This is No More Off 4 here with another do-it-yourself video today. We're going to be looking at reconditioning a knife. This was my grandfather's knife, and I recently just found it stashed away in an old fishing box. So I was pretty disappointed when I found it because the handle was falling off. It was just placed on like here. They had these little studs in the ends. This knife is probably at least 40 to 50 years old. Here was the sheath. He had probably made this. My grandfather was an awesome man. Just unfortunate that he passed away before I really was old enough to share some of his experiences with him. He was in the Navy. He was an outdoorsman like I am. Would have been really cool to get to know him, but unfortunately he passed away when I was only a few years old. So this is going to be kind of a testament to him, tribute to him in a sense. I'm going to recondition this knife in his honor, and hopefully he'd be proud of that. So let's get started. So taking a look at this knife, obviously the biggest problem we have right now is rust. That's what caused these handles to come out. The metal rusted from the inside. These lost their fit against the knife's tang and subsequently have fallen out. So what we're going to do, our first step is going to be to remove the rust. I'm going to use Naval jelly, or just rust dissolver essentially, and blue and rust remover. So I'm going to get the rust off of the knife. So essentially the steps that we're going to look at this as, first is going to be reconditioning the parts that are damaged. So we're going to be removing rust, any other abnormalities, blemishes, things like that on the actual blade or the handle. We're going to take care of those first. The next step will be to kind of get it back into actual functionality. I'm going to put a handle on it. Still haven't figured out what we're going to do for that. I'm going to think about that as I'm cleaning it up, and we'll get to that later. Maybe do a actual wooden handle, or we might do just paracord, a couple layers of paracord wrap. Then finally we're going to actually sharpen the blade and get it back to, you know, a functional sharpness there. So first step, as I said again, we're going to remove the rust. I'm going to use the Naval jelly first. Obviously you want to take the necessary precaution steps. There is phosphoric acid in Naval jelly. So we're going to use gloves and also goggles. I'm going to start with the tang since that's the most damaged area. You want to try to remove any excess rust before you do this step, and I already have. So at this point we're just applying, trying to scrape up any additional loose debris, and then we're going to let this set for about 5 to 10 minutes. If there's still a significant amount of rust after that point in time, we just have to reapply it. The bristle I'm using right now is not that hard. It does have some softness to it, so it's not going to leave any serious scratches or anything on the inside of the tang. Not that that's going to matter. That will apply more so when we get to cleaning the blade. But you just want to keep that in mind. Any exposed parts, you don't want to be using too hard of a bristle brush. So we're going to let that work for a few minutes and see how it does. So first application there did pretty well. May do another one. There's still some pieces on the inside and against the ends of the handles. I did just realize also that these little spacers on the handle are actually starting to fall out as well. If I can keep the pattern that they have there, it goes black, black, white, red, red, white, black, and then repeats. If I can keep that spacing, I will. I am going to have to knock at least 2 of them out to keep them even. but I may end up having to just take all of these out and wrap the whole length with paracord, just because they're already pretty much structurally compromised from the rust that's inside. So, but let's go ahead and start to work on the blade here while we still got this stuff out. You don't want to leave it out for too long. Again, starting with the softest bristle. And you can see that pink turns to a brown as it starts to remove the oxidation from the exposed metal. This might be the hardest brush that I have to use. This is doing a pretty good job. Probably have to apply more than one coat, but that's no problem. This Naval jelly looks like the soap from Fight Club. I love it. Mischief, mayhem, and knife sharpening. It's okay if we scratch up the edge right now because we're going to resharpen it later. Alright, now let's let that marinate for a couple minutes. We're going to have to do that more than once, but we don't want to overdo it each time. So I let that sit for about 5 minutes. You can see how clean that came out. It is a little darker. I will need to polish it, but we'll do that after we get the rest of the rust off. I am going to apply it to the tang again. And I may have to remove those studs like we just talked about. So I got a little more rust off with that second application. Still on the fence about whether or not I'm going to remove these studs completely. I think I'm going to polish the blade here, and I may sit on that, let it rest a day, and then decide whether or not I'm going to take those off. So now we're going to use some metal polish up the blade. Not going to get it completely back to, its original shine, but you can see already the difference between the side that we polished and the side that we didn't. Using a Dremel tool again with Brasso. And then we'll touch it up with some steel wool. Might experiment with some auto polish as well, see if that works. Now, like I said, you're not going to get this back to perfect stainless, but that's pretty damn good compared to what it looked like. Now, obviously, over the years, the sharpness of the blade has been compromised, to say the least. Pretty terrible, to be honest, which is expected with as long as it was miscared for. So what we're going to do now is use my new work sharp, making its debut here on the No More Op 4 YouTube channel, to sharpen the blade. And essentially this is just a tool sharpener. You can use it for knives, you can use it for lawnmower blades, scissors, all sorts of cool stuff. Very awesome product. Recently just sharpened some of my outdoor knives on it. So now we're going to test it on this. And because this blade is so worn, we are going to have to start with the lowest grit that this comes with. So let's switch that out and get started. Alright, got the lowest grit on. Being that this is an outdoor knife, I'm going to sharpen it with an outdoor angle. They recommend 50 degrees, so 25 on each side. So let's get started here. I don't know how well you'll be able to see that. Yeah, you can see that on there. Already nice angle on this blade. You can see that real thin extra shine all along the edge. This baby's going to be ready to go. Yeah, this knife and tool sharpener by WorkSharp is a great investment for anyone. You know, I've done a video on knife sharpening, and you can get knives sharp that way, but you know, out of the box sharpness is really hard to achieve on a whetstone. So I was looking for other alternatives, and this is what I found, and it's been everything that I, you know, exactly all I could have hoped for. So and now finally for the highest grit, to give it a razor sharp edge. Looking good, boys. Just to mention quickly about something like this, you don't want to take it through many times through the sharpener, because this does work on the principle of basically taking away, chewing right off the blade at a pretty high rate. You can see that pile there. That's all from the blade. But you know, if you really want a razor sharp edge, you've really got to do that. So let's test how sharp it is now. Just want to make sure you don't take too much off. A couple slides through is all you really need. So before, had a real hard time getting through anything on the paper. Look at that. It's butter. Oh yeah, baby. All day. So just 5 minutes on the WorkSharp, and we went from that to that. So this is pretty much done. Really, the only thing I have to do is finish up the handle. I will include that. I've just got to think about what I'm going to do here. But I'm going to sit on this a day or so while I think of what I want to use for this handle. Excellent sharpness though with the WorkSharp. Okay guys, back again. Took a couple days to kind of roll around in my head what I wanted to do as far as the handle. Did I want to get complicated and try to make a wood handle, or did I just want to use a simple Paracord 550 cord wrap? I decided on the latter, and the purpose of that was to try to maintain some of the purity and original design as it originally was. These studs were all across the handle. They had started to rust out, and most of them had fallen off or were on the verge of falling off. So in order to retain that originality, I just decided to wrap this 550 cord with a technique called whipping. I did that in a separate video because I figured there would be people that would want to see that individually and not this whole reconditioning. So I'll annotate that. Feel free to check that portion out. But that's really it. You know, not even more than half an hour's worth of work. We've got the rust off. We removed the damaged parts. I put a new edge on the blade, and it's now very sharp, as I already showed you. And now it's got a nice 550 cord handle. So, as always, guys, if you have any questions, please feel free to get at me. Check out the YouTube channel, rate, comment, subscribe. Check out my Facebook, like my Facebook page. check out the blog. You can see some in-depth information on some of my videos there. You can always get in touch with me through any of those interfaces. But that's really it. Sometimes you got to make something old new again. So hopefully my grandfather will be proud. Stay safe, guys. I'm out.